I don't know this song.
My body becomes like a cement. Oh my God.
That was the better one.
Okay. Oh my God. It's like magic. Literally like magic.
Bonjour, comment ça va? Et toi? Ça va très bien. Ni hao, hola, buongiorno, bienvenue, wan ying, bienvenidos, benvenuta, and welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemological storyteller. And each and every week, I have a truly amazing opportunity to take you on a journey to places you've never been before, to hear stories you've never heard before. Each week, I get one magnificent moment to take you on a mental, physical, and spiritual adventure into the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry. It is my hope to use the stories of gemstones that have changed the history of the world as a template, as a inception point, as a bridge to help you begin your journey of discovering the value of your own stories. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, and Merry Christmas for everyone of all my viewers, the Gem Hunter family. This is a really exciting time of year for a lot of people, and it also is it's a sad time. Robert, bring up my screen for me, please. It's a sad time for a lot of people because of what it means, the meaning of the whole thing. So today, what I'm going to do is I want to teach you every show, I always talk about the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry. But today we're going to talk about the magic. And it's real. And what I want you to think about, because this time of year really can be a time where we learn great lessons about ourselves and about our lives, the importance, the story of our lives. You ever notice that when you get a piece of jewelry from someone that you love, it means the world to you? These pieces are literally $14. They're from Etsy. They're $14. All of them are actual real gemstones, and it doesn't cost that much to make them. But if someone that you love gave you that pendant at your birthday, or graduation, or Christmas time, that pendant would mean the world to you. You would remember it forever. And the reason why you remember it forever is because you would remember it. And the reason why you remember it forever. I mean, think about the jewelry that you have, that your grandmother, that your grandfather, your uncle, your mom, the watch that your father gave you. And now he's no longer with us. And the reason why, even though it might be a cheap Timex watch, it might be a $14 pendant, but you remember it forever. Why? Because you appreciate it. You appreciate what you received. You appreciate the beauty of it. You appreciate the way that person gave it to you. It means the world to you. And I think that lesson is what's missing for a lot of people. So today's show, what we're going to talk about, and the reason why it's important is because you told yourself a story. The reason why you remember it is because you told yourself a story. And that's why it stays in your head. Remember, as I always say, a good story only does three things. A good story is memorable. A good story calls you to action. And most importantly, a good story makes you need to tell a friend. I remember my greatest Christmas. My mom and dad are no longer with us, but I'm 62 years old and I still remember my greatest Christmas. I remember and I told you, I might have told you this story, so bear with me. My mother, as most of you know, was special. You know, she was special in her own different ways. And most of the time, every year, my mother, I guess it started when I was maybe 4. My mother would every year tell us, "You're not getting anything for Christmas." You can fill in the blank for what she said about anything. You're not getting fill in the blank for Christmas. And normally she would start that monologue around, I don't know, October, around my birthday, September. But that one year, she started early, like April. And she told us over and over and over again, "You're not getting anything for Christmas. You're not getting shit for Christmas. Santa Claus is not bringing you anything." And I wasn't a bad kid. I was a nerd. I wasn't a bad kid at all. I couldn't understand it. And it got closer and closer. October came, November came, December came. And my mother we didn't see any gifts under the tree. There was no boxes in the closet, nothing. My mother kept constantly saying, "You're not getting anything for Christmas. You're not getting anything for Christmas." But so by the time Christmas came, I'm like believing her. I'm like, okay, we're not getting anything for Christmas. And when that happens, I'm moving out. I'm done. And it was just me and my brother at that time. And my brother, who's just a year younger than me, but he still believed. We both believed in Christmas. We believed in Santa Claus. And my brother kept saying, "No, Santa Claus wouldn't leave us." And I'm just like, "Excuse me, what did mom say for all these months? You're stupid. We're not getting anything." And Christmas came. I'm ready to move. I'm literally going to run away. I had no idea where I was going, but I was going to run away. And my brother, this is Christmas Eve, Christmas morning. We normally get up about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. We figure Santa Claus is gone by then and we sneak down to the living room. But I wasn't going this year. I was like, I'm not going. Mom said we're not getting anything. I don't see any evidence, anything. All I see is a tree. That's it. Nicely done, but a tree. So my brother said, "I'm going to go." And I was like, "Okay, you're stupid. You're still." And tell you what, since you still going and you just that stupid, when you come back crying, don't come back crying to me. Okay? Because I'm going and you can't go with me. I'm all like 7 years old. Literally, I remember this. And we slept in bunk beds. I slept at the top. My brother slept at the bottom. And he went. And we lived in New York. And it was a long hallway. Probably not as long as I remember it because I was a kid, but long hallway. And I remember my brother walking down the hallway. And it seemed like forever. Because in my mind, in my heart, I was like, "Please, God, please, God, please, God, let this not be. I don't. Please, I believe in you. Don't this. I wasn't that bad. Come on. I wasn't bad at all. Come on." So my brother eventually came back down the hallway. I hear him running. Boom, 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 boom. He's running down the hallway. He busts open the door and says, "Barry, Barry, Barry, we got everything." I remember trying to get out the bed so fast that I almost killed literally. I got caught up because I was so mad. I got caught up in the sheets. And when I tried to get out the top bunk, the sheets caught me and I almost hung myself in the sheets. I finally got out of that, ran down the hallway, and literally, we had a big living room, New York living. We had a big living room, and down in the tree was in the corner, and literally every inch of that room was filled with toys. Everything they made that year was in my living room that year. My father, what happened was my father hit the number. For those of you who understand, my father ran numbers. My father played the numbers. He hit the number. I don't know how much he won, but it was a lot. And he got us everything for Christmas. You know, the 12th day of Christmas, you know, my true love gave to me. I was still opening up gifts. January 3rd, January 4th. He'd be like, hey, Barry, you got another one? Yeah, bring it over here. I mean, it was just like that. And that was the greatest Christmas that I have ever had. I'm 62 years old. I still remember that like it was yesterday. And I always appreciated that moment because it was a story. And it was a story. And because I say all the time, nothing has value without a story. That's why I remember it. That's why I still remember that Christmas. Fast forward to now. Today, we're going to talk about appreciation. Appreciation. So many of us receive gifts in our lives and we don't appreciate it. We say, oh my God, I just want a G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip, which eventually I got. I don't know, I've put it somewhere, but I eventually got a G.I. Joe. One of my wonderful viewers got me a G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip. Thank you so much. But you remember those stories, and because you remember those stories, you appreciate it. And that's what we're going to talk about, appreciation. Because appreciation is how you begin to understand and discover the value of your own story. Because you appreciate where you've been, where you've come from, what has happened to you before. So I told you about my greatest Christmas story as a child. Now let me tell you my story as an adult. Yes, last week, December 17th, I gave the greatest speech of my life, the biggest speech of my life. I had to speak for the GSA India 75 Expo, Global Expo. They asked me to speak, and I was there to speak about the theme of the expo, telling you how global it was made for India, made for the world. And what the expo was about was literally getting India, I'm talking about the whole continent of India, letting the world know that we are open for trade, we are open for communication, we are open for everything. Technology, textiles, computers, healthcare, transportation, everything. And they invited me to come, that's me, to speak at this event, to talk about the importance of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in education. And you might as well add A in there for art, STEAM. That's what I spoke about. And there was all kinds of this was the people that I was on the panel with for the education section. Dr. Santi was the person who graciously invited me to be one of the speakers. It was all kinds of events. There was Bollywood. And I told you last week how Bollywood, and you might not have heard it because the sound was funny last week, my fault. Bollywood is huge. Bollywood is like 10 times bigger than Hollywood. There was all kinds of different chants and spiritual, metaphysical, different types of things. Because when you talk about metaphysics, you're talking about India, the civilization, the culture of India is where all these, many of these metaphysical thoughts and ideas and concepts came from. So I was there for that. There's also different types of sessions in regard to metaphysics and mantras and meditation. There was different types of, these are all it was amazing. It was amazing. All the different events, all the different seminars that were there. They had spiritual leaders from India, major spiritual leaders from India. And you got to think about it, this is India. This is a civilization, a country with over 1.4 billion people. And these were some of the leaders, CEOs, corporation presidents, everybody, political leaders, they were there. It was an amazing. I'm still kind of feeling the effects of just the type of people, all the people that I met. Again, Chance of India. So, but what it also was my 30th anniversary. It was the 30th anniversary of December 15th through the 17th. I remember it like it was yesterday. 1992 was the day that I realized that I was homeless. And the reason why I keep bringing that up, because and I don't know if I said it last week, but when I say homeless, I'm not just talking about people. How did they say? Someone who's up on all the latest terminology said something like shelterless, or a person with. There's a different way of saying homeless, but for me, it was still homelessness. But my point is, you don't have to. You can have a home and still be homeless. There's many people right now. Some of them are watching. I know friends of mine, people that I care and love, who in their spirit, they're homeless. They don't have a place. They may not even like their body. They may not like something about themselves. So in there's no home for their spirit. So they think, so they believe. As I tell people all the time, when I was homeless, it wasn't because of drugs, it wasn't because of alcohol, it wasn't because of the normal things that people think about. Oh, there must have been something wrong with them. No, my spirit was homeless. My spirit was homeless before I actually physically became homeless. It was on a Tuesday. I remember it. And I checked it just a few days ago, and I said, yeah, it really was on a Tuesday, because that's what I always remember. So the question is, how does storytelling, how do I go from the Pacific Gardens mission? This is the shelter that I eventually got to, because there's a whole hierarchy to becoming homeless and getting into a shelter, to being honored by congressmen, speaking at a global expo. Literally yesterday, I just got notification that I'm a featured author in a healthcare magazine in France. That they not only did I write a whole article on pearls, as you see, this is the table of contents, Gem Hunter Stories, page 1, in France. In France, un nouveau numéro. And I wrote a whole article on pearls. And because healthcare workers, many of them are women, I wanted them to understand the beauty, how pearls come about. And you've watched that show before, how pearls come about, how pearls start from something, from pain, start from something, basically a UTI. And from that UTI becomes something beautiful. So I literally had 2 pages on this newsletter all the way in France. And I'm so honored and blessed to be heard in that my voice, that my story is being told. So how does that happen? You have to, when you appreciate something, you create a story. You ever notice how little kids can get, let's just talk about jewelry, how you can give a little kid a diamond, a diamond chip. And for that child, for that person, for some of us as adults, that gemstone means the world. It means the world to us. So how can we use that in our own lives? All of us have that story. All of us have a piece of jewelry or something of value. And from that something, you created a whole story. So how can we use that same concept to empower our lives, to empower who we are? And when you understand that, you literally can be anything you want. You can apply it to anything. And that's what we're going to do today. So for instance, turquoise. Three gemstones for the month of December. Turquoise, zircon, and tanzanite. So let's talk about turquoise. And what I want you to do, this is a lab experiment. So what I want you to do is when I talk about the gemstone, I want you to, in its place, talk about the person that you care about your life. That person could be someone that you're their partner, or intimate with, your friend, a buddy, a workmate, anybody. So we're talking about turquoise. I'm gonna show you how you can do this. Turquoise. Here it is. It is it's a stone that represents wholeness, communication, spiritual expansion. Now, let's take that stone. Let's take those characteristics and apply it to characteristics that someone has, that there's somebody that you know that has that type of characteristics. That when you see them, they represent a sense of wholeness, a sense of completion. I just told someone just a little while ago that what I love about her is her sense of organization. That when she plans, and I know quite a few people like this, but when they plan something, you know it's complete. You know that it's done. You have that person in your life. And when you speak to that person, you can talk to that person. You can communicate with that person. You can sit down and tell that person your greatest dreams, and you can tell that person, you can be vulnerable, that person. That when you speak to that person empowers you. That person gives you thoughts and concepts and feelings about not just about them, but about you. Spiritual advance, expansion. I told you that turquoise was one of the first mined gemstones. How that person that you know might be the first person, man, male or female, could be that first person that ever really loved you. So in your mind, that person is the first mined gemstone, the first person, or it could be your first love. Now, hopefully, none of you are 5,000 years. Well, actually, if you are, please come on this show. That would be wonderful. Okay, but it's the national stone of Tibet. That person that you love is your national stone. That is your man. That is your woman. That is your friend. Your ace boon coon. That represents your friendship. When you think about your life, when you think about the things that you've done in your life, every day, work, whatever, that person is your turquoise. And when you look at that person, that, as I told you, in Tibet, turquoise is a sentient being, meaning it has feelings, it has emotions. Can't that be the same thing with the person that's in your life? That person is alive. That person is a sentient being. That person does have emotion and feelings. That person and that reason is you can communicate with that person. That you love that person because that person offers you spiritual expansion. You grow. It could be your teacher. It could be your mom. It could be your friend. It could be your dad. And because of that, you when you look at that person may not be shaped what other people are like. That person might have marks and grooves and blemishes and things like that. That person might be a different color than you or the person next to you or some of your other friends. That person may not be pretty to look at right at the when you look at it. That person might be rough. This is a rough piece of turquoise, but it's beautiful. And if that turquoise can represent somebody that's in your life, and because that person is in your life, you appreciate all the little things. You appreciate that little groove, that way that person smiles, that funny way that person laughs, or the way they see the world, or a television show or a movie in a completely different way. That person is your turkeys. That person is what you honor, and that person is what you love because of who that person is, because of what you do, because you're a nurse, you're a teacher, you're a doctor, you're someone who deals with people, you're a chef, and every day you appreciate not only what you can do, but you appreciate the fact that those people came to your restaurant to eat your food, to eat something that you created, something that meant something to you, that you put those ingredients together, and from that became turquoise for you. Appreciation. Appreciation. Understanding that people, if someone gave you a piece of turquoise, someone went to Arizona, Southwest Arizona, somebody went to Syria, which was Persia, somebody went to Turkey, somebody went somewhere and they brought you back that, and now you appreciate that person. You appreciate that gemstone because of the story. And that's just one example, and we're going to continue on when we come back on the other side. Talk about appreciation. I so appreciate my executive producer. She does wonderful things all the time. But I want to get back to, or continue, appreciation. We don't appreciate where we are in our lives because we don't see ourselves as a story. We don't see, when I stood on that stage last weekend, I stood there 30 years later as a man who lived in a dumpster, as a man that didn't take baths for God. The worst, I think, was 2 weeks without really taking a bath. Okay, my God, I can't even begin to tell you what I smelled like. But on 30 years later, there I was. It made it so important. It wasn't just the event, wasn't just the people that I was touching and everything. It's just the fact that I was there. The fact, whatever, all the things that happened in my life brought me to that moment. And you have to use that in your head for the times when things don't go right, when you feel bad, when you get fired from your job, or you didn't get the promotion you wanted, you didn't get the person that you love, but you have to go back to the times when you were successful. You have to appreciate the journey. You have to appreciate the process. Let's go to the next gemstone, zircon. And I told you, zircon, let's go through it. This is the chemical, not ZZ, not CZs. Although if someone gave you a CZ and they gave it to you from love, this was their Christmas gift to you, you would appreciate it. You wouldn't look at it and say, oh, they gave you zircon. You wouldn't look at it and say, man, I don't want this old thing. Understand, if someone gives you a piece of zircon jewelry, there is a possibility that piece, that little piece of jewelry, that gemstone, is 4.5 billion years old. But because you appreciated that someone took the time to give you that, you would never say, "Oh, that's old. I don't want that thing." You appreciate. So if you have a person in your life that is the stimulation of all the chakras, that means when you look at that woman, you just sit there and look at her and go, my God. And I'm talking about someone who you dated, married long ago. I think about my good friend, Toastmaster friend, Dan Kovich. And Dan has been married for like forever, 30, 40 years. And or think about Lawana Bradford, who's a great viewer. Hey, Lawana, her dad and her mom was married forever. I don't know, she'll tell me, but 40, 50 years. Stimulation of all the chakras, increased life force. You can't tell me that that Lawana and her mother and was not her father's zircon that increased his life force. How many times has he been in the hospital and he comes back? God willing, he comes back because of the love and the support that she has given her father. And all of you who have gone through all these things in your life, think about how you are zircon for someone. A grounding of ideals in the physical world, meaning making things actually work today. I know it sounds good, grounding of ideas. How about you need to get a job? Let me help you. You need to find a place to live. Ideas in the physical world. So you are zircon, or let's put it the other way. That person who's helped you is zircon for you. And it comes in a variety of different colors. You don't know where that person is going to touch your life, what that person is going to look like for you. That person might be blue. That person might be orange or gold. That person might be a bluish green. Not only just externally, but internally. That person is different. That person might manifest the way they interact with the light. These are all zircon, but there is specific color. There's a specific manifestation that helps you, that empowers you, that enhances who you are as a person. So when you look back at your life, at the story of your life, you have to start thinking about who is your turquoise? Who is the person whose wisdom, whose spiritual guidance? Who's the person that fed you? Who's the person that gave you that energy? Who is the person that you can tell stories about years from now? That you can tell stories about what they did, where you were in the past and where you are now. You if you tell that story, you will tell the person you're telling that story to, or to yourself, what was it about that person that made it special? That pink color, that rich cranberry, pinkish color is what made her special. Is what made him special. You talk about the clarity. Zircon, one of the things that makes zircon different is that, and you can tell the difference between zircon and diamonds, is zircon is what's called doubly refracted, meaning that when light comes through zircon, it breaks into two different rays of light. So it's doubly refracted. It looks like you're having a double imprint, and you can see it in the faceting. That's the way somebody is in your life. That person can do. How many women can cook and clean and take care of kids and still take care of you, guys? Still take care of you. Or still take care of you, ladies. That person can take care of you. They're doubly refracted or more than that. Zircon. Is zircon one of the gemstones? Diamonds, rubies, emerald? No. In fact, zircon is the number one gemstone that is imitated, that is used to imitate a diamond. So maybe you don't have the star, that the I always have to think of somebody else other than J-Lo, because that just comes to my mind. I think I just like saying her name. But You may not have someone who visibly is that star, but for you, for what that person has done for you, that woman, that man has done for you, yeah, yeah, she is beautiful. The color that she is for someone, that color, that cut, that clarity, that hardness of that is beautiful for you. It means look at the way that gemstone just floats on that. It's on actually a wood surface. Look at the way it just sits there. How many times have you had people in your life that when you looked at them, you just said, thank God. Thank God for that person coming into my life. Yeah. And when you get to that person, the greatest thing that you can do in your life with that person is appreciate them. Appreciate what makes them different. Appreciate how who they are affects who you have become. Appreciation. We use that word all of this like value. We use appreciation. Oh, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. But do you really? Do you really appreciate that person for being in your life? Let's talk about the next step. Tanzanite. Tanzanite. Tanzanite is imagine having someone in your life that creates a linkage between the mind and the heart. Imagine having that. If we can embody Tanzanite, if we can embody that gemstone with the powers of linkage between the mind and the heart, you know that's got to be true for a person. You know that there's someone in your life, hopefully, that has touched you. Maybe it was your mom. Maybe it was your dad. Enhance spiritual perception. You know, when mom says, you really shouldn't be with her, right? Because I'm just telling you, there's something that I sense, or you really shouldn't be with him. You know, your girlfriend telling you, girl, no. If that person saved you from a bad relationship because there's something that they sensed in that person that you couldn't see and they could see, that's Tanzanite. You have Tanzanite in your heart, in your mind, in your spirit, in your life. Compassionate. Imagine having someone who offers you compassionate self-expression, meaning that when you messed up, she still loves you. She still holds you. She still says, baby, I'm not happy with you. I'm not happy with you, but I love you. I care about you. I like who you are. We could do it differently this next time, but this is how we're going to, but the adherence to the truth, how someone can still be truthful to you. I'm thinking about somebody like Barbara, who when Barbara tells me something, she's my bestest friend. But when Barbara tells me something I did wrong all the time, she'll just go, Mr. B. And I already know. Okay. But this compassionate self-expression, who is the Tanzanite in your life? Who is the person that's only found one place in the world wherever you met your Tanzanite? That coffee shop, Jules, the supermarket, the PTA meeting, a conference, that's your Tanzanite. She or he interacts with you in that way. You know, because you've been through so many relationships in your life, you know how rare she is. You know how unique she is. And though you just found her, okay, Tanzanite is new, it was found in 1967. But does that take away, does it take anything away from what it is? Yeah. Zircon is 4.5 billion years old. Tanzanite is basically what? 50 something years old. Does it take it anything away? If someone gave you that gemstone, if someone gave you that deep, wonderful blue violet that you feel like you could jump into, like it was a pool, it was water. And some of us have seen oceans that color, maybe a little lighter, but you've seen that color. You've seen tanzanite colored, sapphire colored waters. You've seen you've seen your woman, your man wear something of that color, and that his tie, her dress, her shoes, her nails, her eye makeup struck you in that way. And for you, that's tanzanite. Even the name is exotic. And you love that person because of that. You don't care where that person comes from. You don't care that that person lived in the bush or lived here or lived in some country somewhere. You don't care. You don't. All you know is that when you are with that person, and when I say person, I'm not even talking about, I hope you understand, I'm not talking about just romantically involved. I'm talking about just friends. Friends. People that you met. People that you understand. My good friend Charlie. Hey, Charlie. You know, Marines. We didn't serve together, but because we're Marines. Because we are brothers. He happens to be white. I happen to be black. But we're brothers. And I appreciate him because he is a gemstone for me. There's so many people in my life that have been gemstones for me, and I appreciate their colors. I appreciate who they are. I appreciate, even though they understand what I had to go through. More importantly, I understand what it took to find them. What it took to find that person in my life. Good friends are no different than tanzanite. You got to work for it. You got to dig in holes. You got to find. You don't know where you're going to find that one person. I'm not going to put on blast. There's a person that lives in my building. We met because of COVID. I've been living here for years. We met because of COVID. We started out as COVID friends. Okay. And she's a dear friend of mine today because despite what we've gone through, who she has been for me. Tanzanite. And once you understand how that person in your life that loves you, that cares about you, that thinks about you, that feeds you, that makes sure that you're okay, that call up and say, hey, are you all right? That's your gemstone. That's your zircon. That's your turquoise. That's your tanzanite. That person might have looked like that when you first met them. That person may not have been the most handsomest thing in the world or the most prettiest thing in the world. Even when you first met him, you're like, okay. Yeah. But for you, you see that guy. You know, lots of women, I talk to women all the time. Women will tell you, oh, I heard it last week. Someone said, when I first met my husband, I didn't even like him. I didn't like him. I thought, oh my God. But once I found out who he was, once I found out the way he made me feel, it came more. He became he went from being that rough gemstone that when you first met him, maybe he didn't have money. Maybe he wasn't straight on where he wanted to be in his life. Maybe he had all these ideas and everything else and stuff like this. You got to understand that was me 30 years ago. No, more importantly, this was me. This was me 30 years ago. This was me. And if you just looked at one end of me, you wouldn't have seen the colors. You wouldn't have seen the colors. Tanzanite has to be heated to become that color. It doesn't come like that. It's closer, actually, it's more closer to what's on the right side of the stone than on the left. That's how Tanzanite was discovered. Tanzanite was discovered in a field that just had been hit by lightning. And if you know about the science of lightning, lightning has a temperature that's hotter than the sun. And that lightning bolt hit that field full of zolite. That's what Tanzanite really is. They gave it a fancy name, but it's zolite. That's what it is. And it became that. So you could work that either way. Either that person is your lightning bolt, your heat, your treatment that made you become this beautiful gemstone, or you are that for that person. But the key thing is about understanding that this, because, and when you understand that that's the greatest lesson that you get from gemstones, that there is no gemstone, none, except maybe pearls. And pearls have to be treated in their own way, but not as much as other. But there's no gemstone that comes out looking like that. None. They all have to be faceted. They all have to be heated. There's no such thing as Tanzanite that comes out of the ground that looks like that. Tanzanite has to be treated to get to the point where you're talking about enhanced spiritual awareness. The link between the mind and heart. How does that process become? How do you get to that? And the only way you get to that is understanding your story. You have to understand where you came from, where you've been before, the things that you've gone through in the past, and where you are now. Tanzanite, adherence to the truth. What is the truth for you? Maybe you figured it out yourself. Maybe someone told you the truth, and maybe at the time you thought it was an insult. I tell you all the time, everything that I do in my speaking career, my storytelling career, came from an insult. My ex told me point blank, "Oh my God, you talk all the time. I'm so tired of you talking." But it was that made me do what I do today. So I appreciate who she has been in my life, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have possibly come to where I am today. She was the lightning bolt. She was the size 6 up my behind to get me going, to get me to think, what are you going to do with this? How many of us have gone through that? How many of us have been told your boss at job, when you got fired from a job, thank you. It hurts right now. It hurts like hell. Because you've been in that job for X amount of years. And someone just decided, the new manager decided that you're not good enough anymore. Okay. That's the universe way of telling you, of preparing you for the next level. Just like a gemstone. And when you understand how you can become, when you understand what all this is Tanzanite, from this stone becomes this. It becomes that. From my brother telling me, from my mother telling me, you're not getting anything for Christmas. I stood on the stage from that Christmas, from that December, and what was that? That had to be, I was 7. So 1967, 1992, being homeless, to now 2022, standing on the stage in front of, it wasn't millions of people there, but they was filmed in front of millions of people, talking about the importance of STEM in education. How did that process happen? So in order to move forward, oftentimes, I believe you have to get to the point where you appreciate where you came from. It can empower you. That's where the importance of once upon a time comes from. Once you understand where your story, look at your life as a story. Look at the way the character, you, have moved through your own story. And then the power in that is understanding that once you understand that it's a story and you are the director of that story, and I'm not talking about pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about stepping back, looking at your story and asking yourself, who needs to be in your story? What characters need to be? If you got somebody in your life that's the villain in your story, cut him or her. Cut him. It happens all the time in Hollywood. I'm sorry, we decided to go a different direction. And if you are the person that person decided that you are not good enough for their story, okay, fine. Take whatever lines that they gave you, take whatever script that they gave you within your story, and then see how can you make something of that. How can you change that into something that is beautiful? How can you appreciate who they was in your life? The journey, and I'm just saying thank you. I'm talking about appreciating, because without their role, without their fire, without their influence, without their heat, without their pressure, you would have never been able to create the story that you have right now. You would never be able to really understand how and if you can't understand that story, if you don't see your life as a story versus just waking up, going to work, come home, if you got to see how it all fits together, how the things good and bad either got you to where you are right now, or is the means that is going to take you to where you want to be. What is, as I talk about in the show, who are you? What is your gem identification? What characteristics do you have to move your story forward? And once you move your story forward, as I always say, that's how you get to value. And you can picture it, you can see it ahead of time. That's how you see that's how you see value. Value only comes once you understand the story. And once you understand stories, you could be anything you want. And that is how I am here today in front of all of you. Because I created a story. I told myself a story over and over and over and over again. And I appreciate the people, the things that have been in my life that helped me create this. So this weekend is Christmas, and whatever gifts you get from whatever person that brings you that gift, appreciate them. Not just the gift, oh, thank you so much, but appreciate the meaning behind it. Appreciate what they thought about when they bought you that gift. And it might not even been a good gift, but there's something that they saw, a good gift for what you thought. But they gave it to you from their heart. They thought about you. Appreciate it. Appreciate that. Take time to give everyone you know a gift that doesn't really even cost any money. Give them a hug. Give them a kiss. Tell them that you love them. Tell them thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being a character in my story. So I hope you enjoyed today. Merry Christmas. Enjoy your holidays. And as always, my name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemological storyteller. And what I want you to do, as I want you to do every week, is to take time to look at your life, take time to look at the people in your life, and discover the value of your story. Until week, au revoir, à tetella, voilà.